display, but here we are. We got Janna Westerholm here. Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. You are from Henrik's Heroes.
Yep.
And that is a nonprofit.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so after our son went through cancer treatment, we realized how much of a need there was in the community to support children with medical illness such as cancer. So we do a lot in the community to help families and children just journey through that battle, really, to help them in so many ways, to empower the children and just the emotional roller coaster ride that it is, and then the recovery as well.
So jumping right into the deep stuff, I mean, this is emotional. How old was your son when you got the diagnosis? Can we talk?
So he was 4 at the time. You know, our boys were 2 and 4. We have 2 young boys, Henrik and Harrison. So it really just felt like a punch, you know, when you're just kind of getting into the fun stuff in preschool, and you just, you know, they're so young and little, and then cancer, and it's like that. Who could see that coming? And you know, who could ever just predict that was what was going to be our next step in life? Yeah, he had just started preschool. We'd kind of noticed some symptoms that he just kind of wasn't feeling good, wasn't kicking the cold. He had leukemia, which it's the most common childhood cancer. Yeah. But it's also kind of a hard one to catch right away because it's in your blood, it's in your bone marrow, and you don't really have symptoms until. You're saying
it seemed like he had a cold.
Yeah, he did. He was, I mean, clearly, like, looking back, what was wrong was that his immune system was weak and he couldn't, you know, kick all the colds that he had gotten from starting at a new preschool. And, you know, he was pale. He was getting a little bit anemic because those red blood cell counts were dropping, and, you know, maybe a little extra bruising on him. But I think with him, it was like emotional. We've kind of learned that Henrik's an emotional kid, and it was like he just wasn't himself, you know. He just having a hard time with stuff. So
I can't. And so I know about you from our mutual friend John.
Yeah.
And his daughter also.
Yeah,
went through.
I'd say I've met a lot of wonderful families, John's family included, going through this and meeting all these amazing children.
This is 100% one of those things where I am. So I have a 4-year-old and a 2, and I'm about to cry just thinking.
I know, right?
I can't allow myself to even imagine. I mean,
Yeah, well, you just never think it's going to be you. Whatever it might be in life, you just never, like cancer, no reason for that. You know, they talk about how it's just, there's nothing you did wrong. There's nothing that we can really do that, you know, it just happens with just kind of an unlucky situation. But
how do you find the strength? Where do you?
Yeah, I know. I think that's still about other people that go through, like, you know, loss of a child or other things. I don't know how you do it in real time, but you do it, and you have no choice, and you have to. But I will say that, you know, our faith and having this amazing community just like lift us up throughout the whole process was the reason why we give back today.
So what was it like finding out? So I mean, you must have suspected something was wrong, or tell me more about like the first time you had an inkling that like we might be dealing with the C word here. I mean,
never, but so you know, he was doing okay. It wasn't like there was anything that was like this really big marker that was like, oh my gosh, we gotta bring him in. But there was just kind of a series of events. It was December 27th. So of course, I think what was helpful was that we kind of overexhausted him with like things, because kids, and you see this with all these families, these kids power through. They power through feeling sick. They power through, you know, chemo sick. They power through just like everything. And so we would not be able to withstand the treatment that they get. They are amazing. They have just a different outlook on life. So, you know, for him to just be like sledding up and down the snow hills and running up and down with a hemoglobin of 5, which is really, really low, needing immediate transfusion, is like, well, how did he do that, you know? So it was a series of people kind of saying, thankfully, you know, my mom she had texted me the Wednesday morning that he was diagnosed. The Wednesday I'm at work talking to my, you know, nurse coworkers going, you guys, like, I think I need to bring him in. Is this like justified? Is this like, you know, she says
you
he comes up
work
the
at
stairs.
The hospital. Mm-hmm. So you are.
Yeah, I have all these resources. It's great.
I'm
a nurse.
You're a nurse
I'm an
and
OB nurse.
OBGYN. Yep. So you're dealing with young babies all day long.
Yeah.
But
so I felt like that really helped, having a medical background and kind of having the people to call on.
Yeah, bringing it to the brain trust and being like, my kid's acting this way, my kid's acting that way, and they're
so yeah, the nurses helped confirm, like, yeah, it's probably time to go in. But it was my mom going, she texts me and she's like, I noticed that he, yesterday or whenever he was here, Christmas, whatever, all the Christmases we had, with all of our family, when he came up the stairs, at the top of the stairs, he was winded. Well, that's not typical for a child. And so that's the anemia setting in. Your hemoglobin's low.
Oh my God.
So that was the moment, that moment that I just thought, okay, yep, it's got to be something. And here's like all mama bear nurse and me going, I'm going to the hospital. We're going to take him in. And I don't care what they say. I'm not leaving there to draw some labs. I want some lab work.
And we're going to get it fixed.
Yeah. So then, we go to the doctor and he gets looked over by a doctor. Of course, I'm already trying to micromanage, and I pick out the doctor that I want to see on call. I say, I know him. Like, let's see him at the peds walk-in. A great doctor looks him up and down and says, it's totally justified. Let's do a CBC, just get a basic blood count. And, you can even go home and wait for the results if you want. I was like, kind of had that feeling. I'm going to stick around. And when those labs come in, they were so off. It was so bad that within, you knew that the back wheels were in motion. They're talking to the doctors. He comes into the room. We have a room at the pediatric hospital, 9th floor, ready for him. And it was like,
they're admitting him right then and there.
Admitting him right then and there.
And what was that your blood must have just turned ice cold, and you just or how do you react at that moment? Like,
you're still kind of in disbelief, and you're still, as a parent, just hoping that it's actually not. So the physician said, it could be some things. His platelets are drastically low, all these classic labs with leukemia. And he said, it's likely leukemia. He kept saying it's likely leukemia. And I like that they were honest with me. I would want someone to just tell me and honestly give me, just say the word. What are you thinking? And just kept going back. It's likely leukemia. Okay. But I'm still driving him to the hospital, just hoping that it's something else. Yeah. Just hoping that it's not the worst of the worst. But as soon as I got to Sanford, this is a floor below where I work, get settled in a room at the new hospital. And I'm sure everybody who's been in the hospital knows this. They have a patient whiteboard with your name up there as Henrik, and here's your room number, and here's going to be your nurse. And the name on the board read Dr. Kabrinsky. And if anybody has ever been in Fargo, all the Fargoans know out there, Dr. Kabrinsky is an amazing physician that nobody wants as their physician. He's the oncologist. He's the peds oncologist.
Yeah.
And he happened to be the one on call that day. So that's when my heart sank. And when the nurse looked at me, because I was kind of like, is that going to...
Because who that
any
is.
other doctors around?
Yeah,
Is that... And she just looked at me and she said, his doctor is going to be Dr. Kabrinsky.
Oh,
and that was that moment where it just all kind of came crashing down. Yeah. So then from then on, you were just already talking about, survival rates and what kind of leukemia we're dealing with. And we're going to jump into chemo, and here's the roadmap, and it's horrible.
Yeah. And spoiler alert, he's fine now. He's fine now.
He's
and
great.
so for those who are holding their breath, this is a happy story.
Yes, it is. That's why we feel like we want to spread our story and just give hope to those that are going through this. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes. All right. Whew. Okay, just gotta.
Are you okay?
No, I mean it because when you have kids, and you don't
whole world.
And I mean I've said that about John too, and maybe not even to his face, but in private with my wife, I'm like I can't.
I know.
I can't. And you and I don't. Speechless and without words. But it's a happy story, and at the end of it, we ended up with Henrik's Heroes, and then you've got your event coming up.
Yep.
And that's fun. That's going to be our next segment, which is Fargo Fun. So we will move on out of the sad and into the happy, into the sunlight. We're going to talk about Fargo Fun. First, we're going to go. John sent this song. It's by a band called Sia. I ain't never heard of them. I don't listen to this kind of music, but it's called Unstoppable. Maybe you've heard of that song. Yeah, and this is a good song. From what I heard of it, sounds fitting. So we're going to listen to that and come back to talk Fargo Fun. Don't go nowhere.